broke 3 acres.
Just like a Brit in a tech.
Then I have to come down to the street to start life afresh.
Are you African?
Big economy.
Very
When I say big, I mean big.
In the way Africans were left behind.
We looked left and right. There was nothing we could do.
The Africa you need to know now.
Do you know 2021 was the year of Africa? Do you know Africa was projected to recover in 2021 from East-West economic recession in half a century?
Inside Africa. Go inside the inventive minds.
Let's look at what happened in that same year. The giant of Africa, Nigeria, and the East economy was and still in limbo and busy fighting war against their own future.
For us in Nigeria, the enclave economy we have, the so-called goose that lays the golden egg, is about to die. There will be no eggs. The future is not in hydrocarbons. A few months ago, Germany was able to produce enough renewable energy for its entire country's needs. Today, we're having difficulty selling Nigerian oil. The United States, India, they're not buying. So not only are we not able to produce, even if we produce, the market is not there. So this is forcing a change. And for us, a country that has depended on oil, this makes the change even more urgent, more pressing. Now on the right, I have further issues exacerbating the situation with Nigeria. Only 9% of new graduates find employment. So we have an incremental 4.5 million added to the unemployed annually. This is Nigeria. Only 9% of graduates find employment. 41% is the number for youth unemployment, whereas overall we have 27% unemployment among the youth. It is 41%, which is the most serious component of the population, because that's where you have restiveness, that's where you have thuggery, that's where you have crime, that's where you have insecurity. Nigeria is ranked 114th in the Global Innovation Index. We are lower than other African countries such as Kenya, such as Rwanda, and Senegal. We are in fact ranked 14th in sub-Saharan Africa. I think we should have these reality checks and know where we are as a country. Let's not, we continue calling ourselves the giant of Africa. We are a giant with clay feet. Okay? So we are 14th in innovation in sub-Saharan Africa.
Inside Africa.
Egypt struggled and still struggling with their long challenge of private sector activities and job creation.
The issue for discussion today is quite topical and quite timely, and indeed I think there is a clear appreciation really and understanding that strengthening the role of the private sector is key for the Egyptian economy to expand its potential, but also for the Egyptian economy to generate more employment to keep up with the growing population. And this is a very important reason why we think that it is the private sector needs to be strengthened. What I would like to do in this session really is to focus in particular on what we think is a key impediment to private sector development. It's not the only impediment, but it's a key impediment, which is the extensive role of the state in the Egyptian economy.
South Africa faced and is still facing a global financial challenge, while looting and gasoline price goes up by day. In that year, they seem to focus more on importation, exhibition and distribution of Johnson & Johnson and other COVID-19 vaccines. Meanwhile, lockdowns were politely imposed constantly on South Africans, from the concept of COVID-19 level 1 to 5 rules, power failure, the load shedding stage 1 to 8.
several states across the country say they are now worried that their unused stocks of the J&J vaccine are beginning to approach their expiry dates. As you know, demand for the vaccines here in the United States has waned substantially over the last few weeks, and so you've got states all over the country saying to the White House and the FDA, what are we supposed to do with these vaccines when they go out of date? Do we just throw them away? The indication that they have been given informally so far, but we think formal guidance is coming, is that the J&J vaccine, and this could be good news in a South African context, can be used past its expiration date.
Algeria is struggling to diversify its economy away from hydrocarbons, with 33% lost, from 33 billion in 2019 down to 22 billion in 2020, as if it came to them as a shock.
As Algeria's oil wealth dries up, people are demanding to know, where has all the money gone? Corruption, youth unemployment and inequality have been at the centre of protests against the two-decade rule of Algeria's President Abdelaziz Bouteflika. Despite agreeing not to stand for another term, Algerians have little faith in the business elite, military and politicians who are running the country. Well, the country's wealth has been squandered. It had currency reserves of $179 billion in December 2014, but that amount has shrunk to $79.8 billion. Rather than using the oil and gas wealth to diversify the economy, more than a fifth of the budget is used for subsidies. The International Monetary Fund says that Algeria's oil and gas revenues account for 95% of the country's export earnings and 60% of its budget. But oil prices have been falling, and the country's oil and gas production has also been in decline due to a lack of investment, meaning that there isn't the money to fill the treasury. Unemployment in Algeria is running at 11.1%, but youth unemployment stands at 26.4%. Two-thirds of the country's 41 million population are under the age of 30. Well, promises to diversify the economy haven't materialised, unlike its neighbour Morocco, which has little in the way of oil and gas. It's built an enviable auto industry, opened up the tourism industry, and is well on its way to achieving 52% of its power needs from renewables. But in Algeria, the strikes and protests go on, as Al Jazeera's Mohammed Val reports.
There will be no economic growth in Africa until African leaders understand that the language of Africa is agriculture and not English. English can write about xenophobia, banditry, economic crisis and genocide. Agriculture writes nature, love, substance, sustainability, financial and social freedom, independence and productivity. Yes,